So as far as just making an at-home pharmacy for some really awesome basic tinctures, just to keep things simple, using vodka is really the simple way to go. Okay, what about using vinegar? Well, apple cider vinegar is a great choice for making tinctures. You're not getting the alcohol, so there is that benefit, but they just don't last as long. They don't have a shelf life like the vodka does, so they might last on your shelf for a year or two. Because I use raw apple cider vinegar in any of my tinctures, if it were pure apple cider vinegar, they would probably need to be refrigerated so that they didn't keep fermenting and getting stronger and stronger. But the apple cider vinegar tinctures just do not last as long. Now, a lot of people really want to use glycerin because they want to avoid the alcohol altogether. But you remember the quote that Kyle Christensen, who wrote this book, said, if you're unable to use alcohol, you'll end up with a pitifully weak product that is one step above useless. Glycerin is what he was talking about. When you take a glycerin-based tincture, it'll take about 30 to 60 minutes to take effect. And it also has a shorter shelf life, kind of like the apple cider vinegar does. It'll only last 1 to 2 years on your shelf before it starts to go bad and really not have any effects. Okay, let's talk just for a second how to take tinctures. I did talk about putting these directly under your tongue, which is the ideal way to take a tincture. But let's be honest, a lot of these herbs don't taste good, which is why we're not making teas out of them. And they've soaked in alcohol, which burns. So taking it under your tongue, it takes some getting used to. So you can open it up and put a squirt right under. And then just let it soak in right there. See, to me, I couldn't have done that a couple years ago. It would have been way too strong. Now it doesn't really bother me, and I'm happy to take it under my tongue. So what I used to do was put a few squirts of this in a little cup and put a little water with it, especially if I needed to take like 2 or 3 different tinctures, depending on what my issue was. Then I would just knock it down. I would get it to the back of my throat, swallow it. I'd feel it kind of burn. So I'm like, okay, it's absorbing. But then a lot of it goes to your stomach. And once it hits that stomach acid, it does change it a little bit and it makes it not quite as effective in your body. So you can totally do it that way, because even when I did it that way, I definitely felt the effects from the tincture. I have so many stories about how tinctures have helped people, and that's the way that they've done it. But it will help you more and absorb more quickly if you can just put it under your tongue. Now, if you're concerned about the vodka, you can simmer off the alcohol. Now, you don't want to simmer off the alcohol from an entire thing, generally speaking. There's always, of course, exceptions, because the alcohol is what is preserving this. Remember, this is 40% alcohol, so we could simmer this down by 50% and have half as much tincture, but then we don't have the amount of alcohol in there that we need to preserve it and make it last on the shelf for a long time. But as you use it, you can simmer it off, because alcohol has a very low evaporation point. So you can take hot water from the tap. Once the water's hot, just put a little water in the cup and then squirt your tincture in there. Wait 2 to 5 minutes. And about half of the alcohol will evaporate off. If you don't think that's hot enough, you can put some on the stove and get it up to almost a simmer. Put your tincture in there and a lot of that alcohol will simmer off. And then you can take it and you get the effects of the herbs, but you've immediately, in the moment, simmered off that alcohol. So that is another way to take it.